Hi, once again, thank you for joining us. Today's topic, we're going to talk about in current situation where we all need to be socially distanced. How can we build virtual communities for tangible impact? And at this point in time, I will hand over to Ricardo from Adrenaline, who will be moderating the session today. Rick, over to you.
Thank you very much, Simin and the race team for inviting myself, Adrenaline, as well as my very, very esteemed panel to come on your conversation series and for organizing this great virtual festival for good, which is running through the entire month of November. Hi, everyone. My name is Ricardo. Thank you also for taking time this Wednesday afternoon. Instead of following the US elections, you are here for this conversation. I just want to take a few moments to frame the conversation. Of course, today is about building virtual communities for tangible impact. It's always been important to build community, but in this time and age of COVID, even more so, right? So that we can continue to communicate, even if we are not physically together in large groups. We can continue to send positive messages. We can continue to make impact. With me today, we've got three panelists who are well-versed in building communities, either as a catalyst or a practitioner, right? And without further ado, I'm very glad to bring them on screen. First, we've got co-founder of Lime Agency, Rickmoore here. Hi, Rickmoore. We're also very happy to have Executive Director from our friends at The Hidden Good, Annabelle. Hi, Annabelle. And last but not least, we've got the Yoda of our space, founder, director of World Toilet Organization, Jack Sim is with us. Hi, Jack. Okay, so let's begin the conversation with a quick introduction of your organization and what building virtual communities, what your interpretation of building virtual communities mean. Rickmoore, you were first to be introduced, so I will kick off with you first. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. So my name is Rickmoore here. Thank you for having me, Race. Thank you for having me for Festival for Good. Hello, everybody. I am the co-founder and CEO of Lime Agency. We are a creative agency based in Singapore. We are 5 years old, very young. And what we do is that we do branding and marketing strategies for our clients. What we also do is that we run social media for our clients. And this is where the virtual communities come in. So to me, and also another thing that I want to say, sorry, I'm an Angmo, I'm blonde, I'm from Norway, but I've been living in Singapore for 9 years. And previously I used to work in marketing for bigger companies like L'Oreal and these big ones. And we started Lime Agency because we firmly believe that small companies have the right to quality marketing advice and branding. So in terms of what I mean for virtual communities, to me, it's a space, the virtual space is a perfect space for where you can meet people who share the same values. And I think that for the good and the bad, but I think this is my main interpretation, is that this is where we can come and share values, and we can discuss, interact, and also create impact for those organizations who are actually behind those same values as well.
Thank you very much, Rickmoore, for that quick, succinct introduction. I see that there are about 20 plus of you sort of watching us for this conversation. I also like to point you to the Q&A function at the base of your Zoom. We'll be taking questions, depending on what questions come in, either in between or in a segment at the end. But please do feel free to put your questions in for Rickmoore, Annabelle, and Jack. I'm going to move now on to Annabelle, who runs The Hidden Good. Annabelle, tell us what you do and what virtual communities mean to you.
Yeah, of course. Hi guys, I'm Annabelle. I'm ED or Saikang Warrior at The Hidden Good. So The Hidden Good, we've been around for 6 years. I would like to see The Hidden Good as a both a community engagement agency, the B2B side of things, and also a content platform, or B2C, where we engage millennials and youth to do good. So we're essentially, I would say, influencers for good in Singapore, where we're in the middle between the businesses who want to do good. So we manage the social media accounts, content strategy, and community engagement for government agencies, corporates, nonprofits want to do good, and we kind of feed them to our millennial audience of about 20K, which we've been growing since 2014, I believe. That's when the Hidden Good was incepted. And what virtual communities mean to me, I think it's taken on a whole new meaning because of the pandemic. And I think what virtual communities looks like for me right now is, I think we can take out the word virtual, it's just community, right? Be it virtual or in person. I think it's all about creating a safe space for people to come together with a purpose, a vision, and a mission. And that's what I want to instill at the Hidden Good with my having started in July. Yeah.
Thank you, Annabelle. And that is a very perfect segue, because I was about to say the exact thing, right? Why do communities need to just be virtual? Obviously, it needs to be a bit more digital now in this time and age, but communities have always been gathering in many different platforms, right? Virtual being just one of them. And one of the experts about getting the message out there, galvanizing different geographies, different countries, different organizations towards a common purpose is, of course, Mr. Jack Sim from the WTO, World Toilet Organization. Jack, you need no introduction, but I will still ask you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, when I founded the World Toilet Organization 20 years ago, social media is not really so hot. It's just beginning. We launched World Toilet Organization on 19th of November, and we named that day World Toilet Day. So we did it at the Singapore Expo, and suddenly we were shocked that the traditional media is spilling over to social media. So people like Wired Magazine and all that start talking about us, and we said, how did they know about us? So all these news agency, traditional media like Associated Press, Reuters, Agent France Press, they resell the news. So you have to do social media together with traditional media. So when they start to send it out, then the other media start to spread. And throughout the years, we learn about new media and continuously have the loyalty of traditional media, because you need both to blend so that you don't only get the young audience, you also get the older one. You know why? The older ones got money, and the older ones are the decision maker, but the younger ones are the pressure group. So I think if we have everybody goes together, then I think this media will create the virtual community. And our organization has only 3 employees, and we are a world body, and our audience per year is 3 billion audience. So this is a way how to leverage by storytelling, and all the media, whether it's in Germany or Xinhua Press or Asahi Shimbun or Russian television or Americans, CNN, they all keep coming back to us.
Jack, I'm going to stay with you just as an extension there. Do you actually focus and spend resources on trying to get PR, trying to get shares, trying to get likes, or do you just focus on the work you do and really the advocacy and spreading the message, and you find that the message spreads sort of quite naturally and organically?
Yeah, like they say, it's coming out naturally, right? So basically, we do not do a push strategy. Push strategy means we push messages to everybody. We do a pull strategy where we are able to tell story in some channels so powerfully that the other channels start to contact us, because we do not have the resource to push. To push means you have to employ a PR firm, you have to get consultant, we have no money. We don't even have a fundraising department, and for the last 20 years, we actually don't have much money, right? So what we do is we tell story that is so powerful that people like BBC, last month, we went on BBC to 97 million audience for 42 minutes. Outlook, BBC Worldwide service. So these are the kind of things that we don't know who like us and what fit to which program at what time, but we are on their database. So whenever they want to talk about sanitation, about shit, they call me.
Yeah, you've sort of really carved out a niche for yourself in that space. But I just want to again distill all the important messages from the different speakers for our audience today. And I think the first message you can distill from Jack is evergreen one, which is tell good stories and they will come. Right. I'm gonna turn the spotlight to Rickmoore and Annabelle again. Rickmoore and Annabelle, I'd like you to share some success stories of your clients or of your organization, and what do you think were some actionable tips that led to that success? So Rickmoore, for example, could you share with us some client case studies? Rickmoore?
Yeah, I actually want to share a case study that I've had recently with, it's not necessarily a client, but it's the Norwegian Business Association. So it's an association that traditionally only did physical events. So it's around Norwegian businesses, networking, about being Norwegian here in Singapore. It's about, how can we leverage on the region and all these kind of things. A very business community-like. So not necessarily only a social cause. However, a lot of the Norwegian companies are supporting the global sustainability goals. So there's a lot about green tech, green energy, blue tech, all of these tech things that has this the sustainable angle. Now, what happened with COVID happens with all of us. We suddenly found ourselves at home. We were not able to go and see. We were not able to network, and we managed quite fast. And I think everybody worked quite fast, actually, to tell the truth. After a couple of months, we managed to have out our first podcast, 3 webinars, and an online strategy that was doing much more than what we'd ever done before. A little bit similar to Jack, we don't have that much money in this association, which is also why I'm taking it as an example, because I'm thinking a lot of our listener might also be from smaller companies where budgets are not necessarily huge. What happened is that where we normally would have a physical event where we had about 35 in average people physically at the event. When we took those events online, we doubled the participation. And again, what I think I'm seeing is that we were able to reach a bigger audience, not only in Singapore, because there were people in Europe, in Thailand, in Indonesia, in China, checking into our and following our events from abroad. And so we doubled it, and we were also around our shared values in a way. So that led to, we had suddenly other sponsors being interested in our event, interested in sponsoring them, because there were companies who came in and said, okay, yes, we are for blue tech and we want to have these sustainability goals. We're trying to meet them as well. Your event and you are reaching our target audience. Yes, we want to sponsor you. That also led to, we were able to get high profile speakers. Mm-hmm. And in the end, the members all benefited from that because they had high profile speakers, interesting events, and they were able to actually share the thoughts online. Now, in terms of, so I think it's a success story because we were able to keep the community. We were able to keep people engaged. We were able we were actually able to spread the word outside the borders. So as Jack was mentioning earlier today, going outside of only Singapore. And in terms of, but I think what was a big challenge is that everybody were doing the same thing. So
Yeah.
we were all doing webinars at the same time. There was all these free stuff coming up, and so we had to actually be very visible. So that's where the story comes in. Yeah, you have to be smart about your story. You have to have people that people wants to see. So basically, we created this kind of good circle in a way. So
Yeah, so the sort of the success begets success, right? So they got bigger and more sponsors were interested, more speakers came on. But I wanted to sort of put you on the spot a little bit, Rickmoore, on that one point that you mentioned, which is that everybody is doing it, right? As we speak about Festival for Good right now, I know there's another huge national movement at the Purple Parade, also doing a lot of good work. A Company of Good with MPC also doing a lot of good work. So many, so much content out there, Rickmoore. What advice would you give to our audience right now watching in terms of still being able to engage your community and build those communities?
I think the best way is what we tell all our clients also is to go into see, why do I exist? Why do people come to me? What is my purpose? Have clarity on that. And I think that's where Jack is very good. For 20 years.
Absolutely.
Have very much clarity of what you're doing and why you exist, and always stay true to that, to the impact that you want to have. Because if you try to copy anybody else, if you try to look like somebody else, if you try to do a messaging that somebody else is doing, you will look like a copycat, and people will get confused. So I think it's very important to get down to that message. Why do I exist? And always come back to that. Stay clear, stay focused, and not go all over the place, but be very focused about the messages and the impact that you want to obtain.
All right.
Answer the questions.
It does, absolutely. Again, from Jack, we heard about storytelling. From Rickmoore, we heard about clarity of purpose and answering why, such that you're not trying to create content in all over the place. You're creating content that is true to your purpose, and you will always have an audience in that way. Got it, Rickmoore. Thank you. I'm going to turn to Annabelle to tell us a bit more about what you do. Annabelle.
Yeah, so I think in terms of how we built community over the last 6 years and what's that look like. So when we first started, we were all about social experiments. People know the Hidden Good for our social experiment videos. Something that we used to organize was the MP3 experiment in Singapore. So we would get people to download an MP3, listen to it, and go to a public space in Singapore. Let's say, I don't know, Botanic Gardens, Universal Studios, and they would just start, doing those actions. And that was because there were partners involved in this. It wasn't just us doing this. So I think now we can't have 20,000 people going out to a public space in Singapore now, right? With the current situation. So how we pivoted in terms of building community, at least over circuit breaker, we would hold, virtual events. But I think webinars, if I may say so myself, webinars and lectures and the like can get a bit dry because people are over Zoomed already, right? So knowing that people are already, very tired with Zooming, we were just like, okay, why don't we come up with a new concept? So we actually partnered with Advocacy. I think this was in August, July, June. And what we did was actually do a watch party. So Advocacy is it's a independent filmmaking platform for Southeast Asian filmmakers. So they're the indie cool kids lah. They do a lot of amazing short films. And we were just like, okay, how could we come together to do a partnership, but for good? And we did a watch party streaming live on Facebook where people, and the theme of it was mental health, which is something that the Hidden Good really stands for. And we have a lot of nonprofit partners in the mental health space. So we did a whole watch party. We actually screened short films related to mental health done by local filmmakers. And we had like a really big turnout. So after the film, people would be kind of sectioned into a Zoom call where we would have the film director who would be sharing more about the film, mental health advocacy experts who are on the panel as well. So it's more than just a typical panel or webinar. It's something that people can engage in, because who doesn't like Netflix and chilling, right? It's about pivoting to what your audience wants. So if I were to summarize what makes a good community event, it would be 3 things. I think first thing is partnerships. So Advocacy, in this case, when we were doing the MP3 experiments, it was people like Great Eastern who wanted to partner with us. purpose. So Rickmoore mentioned that. Why are people coming together? What's the common purpose? Why would they be here and not at another event? There has to be a common purpose and a goal for the community gathering. And the third thing is really dissemination, which is something that Jack talked about with social media channels. And at the Hidden Good, we have we're on all the social media channels. We just started a TikTok actually. So it's knowing where your audience resides. And because our audience are mostly millennials, youths in the 20 to 30 range, all of them are on social media. So that's the fastest way that we can reach them. So yeah, 3 things: partnerships, purpose, and dissemination, I would say.
Got it. Thank you, Annabelle. Again, very actionable advice with regards to partnerships. For example, if you're able to get partners on board, naturally you'll have them help you disseminate the information, and that can then go further and wider as well. So once again, welcome everyone. This is a conversation, 1 hour running all the way through till 5 p.m. with Rickmoore from Lime Agency, Jack from World Toilet Organization, Annabelle from The Hidden Good, and myself, Rick from Adrenaline. And this is part of Festival for Good, which is running, of course, the entire month. We've been speaking a bit about building virtual communities, and I've seen some questions come in under the question and answer segment already below. So again, keep the questions coming in. Keep the questions coming in, because really important to hear from you. Panelists, one of the key questions which I will take, but I suspect we will not have a definitive answer for, is that there are many, many different platforms: Slack, Facebook, Instagram Live, TikTok, website, events, webinars, etc., etc. So many different ways of reaching out to people to a point where it can get almost overwhelming. Do you have advice with regards to navigating these different types of platforms, and how do you make sure your messaging is consistent across platforms? How do you choose which platform is effective? If you've got advertising dollars, where do you put your advertising dollars? For example, Rickmoore, go.
So the advice that we often give is that there are limited resources, right? Limited time, and you can't be everywhere all the time. So one step at a time, one channel at a time. And the reason why we're saying this is because, especially if you start from scratch and you're going to start building a movement or a community, the first step will be where are they? What channels are they using? I think that's what Annabelle was saying so correctly. She says that millennials, they're on social media. And one of the reasons why you went into TikTok, what I understood, Annabelle, is also that because you're going for this, there's a younger target audience there. So where are they? What channels are they using? And how can you then reach them on that channel? And then you start with one, you handle that good, then you do the next one. That's what we try to convey. And again, always be consistent about why you're there and the clarity of the message. So I think that's so in terms of, you can't say that YouTube is better than Zoom or it all depends on where your target audience is comfortable engaging with you.
Thank you, Rickmoore. Jack, would you like to weigh in on this? Where do you put your emphasis on which platforms?
Yeah, so I'm very old, right? I'm 63 years old, so I'm learning all the time how to be young, and LinkedIn is decision maker. If you want the thinker, the one who is going to talk serious with you, you go to LinkedIn. Facebook is old people, but they're mostly talking casual, not very serious people, right? But because you want to reach to the old people, you need the Facebook. Then recently, I heard about TikTok. I don't know anything about TikTok. I also don't understand Instagram very much. But somebody says, hey, let's make a hip hop song. And I say, let's do it. And I don't know what is hip hop. So I asked my daughter, hey, what's hip hop? And then she sent me some songs. Then I said, hey, why don't we do this? So I partner with a Indonesian hip hop artist, and now we create a talk shit hip hop song for the young people. And then we are going to do like 15 seconds, 30 seconds on TikTok, and then 1 minute on Instagram, and then pull them into the YouTube with a full song, like 3 minutes, because people don't have a lot of attention span. So you just give them a little bit teaser here and there. Most of the time, I don't choose the media because they choose me. So like they make a movie, a biopic of my work, and this came from a Hollywood crew, and then they shot it over 5 years. So you can go and watch on iTunes, Mr. Toilet, World's #2 Man. And it's a 90-minute full-fledged documentary film, and you can understand how difficult it is to be a social entrepreneur, but also how joyful it is. And it tells from the family members to the board members, and it's a issue that you have to cross many channels, and eventually you will get your message, because a person needs to be hit by multiple impact, from newspaper to radio to YouTube to TikTok, and eventually it will be ubiquitous.
Thank you. So Rickmore's message was one at a time. Jack's message is, be so interesting that they'll look for you, and make sure that you are ubiquitous and you're seen and heard across all platforms. Annabelle.
So the question is,
there are so many platforms. How do you navigate it? How do you select what, sort of where to be?
Yeah, and I think it really goes back to your idea of who your target audience is, right? If Jack, for example, is trying to reach youths, then YouTube, social media, it works. But if he's trying to reach fundraisers, that's a whole different story altogether. It depends on the demographic of fundraisers also, right? If you're talking about, a bit older people, Facebook may be something that you would want to reach, right? And with Rickmoore, I think with Lime Agency's work with marketing and the communication stuff, it's also looking again at your target audience and the corporate that they're trying to service. So with us, because most of our clients are trying to reach the youth and the millennials, social media is a given, it's a default. But I think something else that we haven't talked about is also how we can do it offline as well. I know we're talking about in the context of pandemics, but maybe more so in places. So let's say schools, universities, institutes of higher education. That's some place where millennials have to be, or young people have to be at because they have to go to school. We also can look at young workplaces. So startups where there's a high concentration of millennials. So actually we're looking at partnering with lots of tech firms in terms of how we reach out to the younger people. So for example, ByteDance was someone that we collaborated with because they want to reach the millennial audience. So again, it's going to being specific with the partners as well that you want to run with. So that's kind of like the offline way of reaching different channels, going to where they are at, be it in terms of like work, play, or business.
So I add a little bit on the offline,
please.
So writing books can be a very interesting thing also. So I wrote a Japanese autobiography, and it was published by the biggest publisher in Japan called PHP. And then after this Japanese book goes to all the bookstore in Japan, then the people who read the book call me, like Nippon Foundation, and then they become our sponsor. So we don't need to go out there and catch people, because we don't know who likes us. And so we do it through the books. And then another book is called 50 Secrets of Singapore Success by Tommy Koh. So I wrote one chapter, and then the Korean ambassador got interested. So this Saturday we're having lunch, and he's translating the book into Korean and then spreading it out. So this kind of thing, like chain reaction, you do not know who like you. You just keep on blasting, and then the people will keep coming back.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jack. And that is a perfect segue to one of the questions that I have read on the Q&A, which how do we creatively empower the people in the community to actively voice their comments instead of just being one of the audience? I mean, I would just paraphrase that to say, how can we ensure that that it's a two-way conversation with your communities, rather than just saying, you're putting content out there, you're just putting messages out there. How do you make sure that they are able to talk back to you, you're able to get feedback, and there's this engagement factor in your communities? I think that's so important. Annabelle, we'll start with you for this one.
I think this is something that's so pertinent right now for the Hidden Good, as we're going through these changes and kind of waking our community up again. After this whole pandemic, and something that's really worked for us, I can give two examples. As online, we have our Telegram channel. So Telegram is a really nifty place if you want to disseminate information but still have a two-way conversation. So you can have up to 20,000 people in a 100,000 people, I think, in a single Telegram channel. But you can also there are these things called bots, where you can get people to install a comment bot such that people can respond to what you're putting out there as well, right? So let's say I release an event that the Hidden Good is doing, and I'm just like, hey guys, who can attend this event? Will you prefer it virtual or offline? Then I can install the comment bot such that people can respond as a thread. So you're still moderating conversation, and it's still, there's still structure, but people from their mobile phones can just reply. So that's one way in which we've had this two-way conversation thing. Another way in which we're doing this is we're having our hoodie hangout this Thursday. So our hoodie hangout is for community members to come on to really give their feedback on how our new direction. We're using this as a way to give feedback on the direction of the Hidden Good as we relaunch. So because of this, we've allowed both virtual and offline. So they would, we would have groups of 5 in different rooms across our co-working space. And then there are people who want to zoom in. They will have, a specific computer there that, in the room where they can talk to the people doing it online. So that's really a way in which we've had to pivot to ensure two-way conversation. And we're not just, releasing our information and no one's involved in it, engaged. So
Thank you for that. I don't want to sort of veer too far away from that engagement question, but I did hear that you are saying that Hidden Good is going to do a relaunch.
Yeah, we are doing a relaunch.
Here's 30-second advertisement time.
Yeah, 30-second advertisement. So on 13th November, we're going to be relaunching as an agency and a content platform. I think the vision for doing good right now, because we're a social enterprise, we're all about encouraging our partners and helping them to engage their communities to do good. Kind of like what Jack did with, sanitation and toilets, changing the narrative on what it looks like. So doing good, when people think doing good, young people, they would think, going to Orchard Road doing Flag Day, or going to East Coast Park picking up rubbish. That's what people think doing good is. Or even going to like Nepal and building a house. I mean, while that's all well and good, I think this pandemic has also shown us that people want to give back, but they don't necessarily, going to an old folks home is not necessarily always the only way to do that. And what we want to do is make it cool, make it a bit more edgy, a bit more experimental, and involve key opinion leaders who people may not necessarily think as the traditional person of doing good. So on our relaunch on November 13th, we are releasing a video where we have, a lot of individuals from all walks of life, rappers, politicians, controversial figures give their opinion on what it means to do good, and that's our relaunch as an organization. So yeah,
what would be the best way to sort of access that content? Is a YouTube channel, the Facebook?
Find us on Instagram. It will all be released on Instagram and disseminated on our Facebook and Telegram channels as well.
Very good.
So I can link it down here below for everyone.
Cool. I'll put it in the comments and we'll just take note. All right, back to this engagement question. Rickmoore, I'm going to come to you. How do you ensure that there's two-way engagement in community building and online?
So I think making use of the technology that's in there in the channels. So a lot of companies, when they start up with social media, they start just blasting out posts and things like that. And I think what is super important for this engagement is to have maybe ask questions and listen to the answers and also react on the answers. because that's how you engage a community. When others are seeing, hey, actually, I can speak to others within this channel. This is where you get comfortable. This is where you can also, you're free to express yourself. And then you will also get more answers and more engagement. So I think it's super important to make use of the comments, the possibilities to do surveys and polls and things like that. And most of the social media, they do have these tools available. So I think it's very important to do that. Just also coming into the part of the webinar, because there was the question also was like specifically on a webinar. I think it's also important to think about if you have many people in a workshop or a webinar, Zoom and most of the other tools as well, they have this possibility to do breakout rooms. And then you can get people to interact together, because a community is not one person talking to a big target audience. It's the target audience engaging together. And I think that's one of the key takeaways, I would say. Make use to the fullest of the technology that is there, especially on, for the virtual part at least.
Got it. Thank you, Rickmoore. I want to sort of tap your brain a little bit. I was in one of these Zoom things a couple of weeks ago, and then suddenly they put us in a breakout room, and it was really odd because we had no idea who was in the room with us. Would you have some advice for sort of people doing webinars and events?
Yeah, I think it's important to inform. To say this is what's going to happen. Right. Now we're going to do this, and you're going to find yourself in a room with people that you might not know, and this is what's going to happen. So I think it's just very important to inform, and especially in these kind of situations when some people are very much familiar with the tool, some are not, and so it's very important to inform and not just think that everybody knows Zoom now after 10 months of Zooming. There are some people who not. So I think informing and introducing what's going to happen and maybe repeating it because sometimes people doze off. Yeah.
Got it, Rickmoore. And hire a good moderator. That's important.
Yeah. Yes, a good moderator.
Like Ricardo.
Yeah. Okay, Jack. Over to you on that two-way conversation question. How do you ensure that whatever you put out there, you're also getting feedback? You're also sort of making sure it's two-way.
Yeah, actually, of course, on the chat, in the Zoom call, you can have a lot of two-way communication, like we have question right now, Q&A. But on the larger scale, the impact measurement is also a two-way communication, and it sometimes is not immediate. You go out and send a message, and then after that, you see people share the message, repeat it, and then like if this hip hop song goes viral, 10 million people or something like that will be very, very happy because it's other people feedback, but forwarding it to other people. So what I want to say over here is how to leverage other people rather than do things yourself. I'll give you an example of what I do with the hidden good, right? So I went to the honor.sg event by Lim Seong Guan at the Capitol Theatre, and all the films for doing good is there. And then I said, hey, I want to make a toilet film. And so I went to Lim Seong Guan and say, can you pay for one of these? And then we will find one of these filmmaker who is here. And then in that crowd, somebody says, go and find Hidden Good. They will produce a film. So I start creating the pitch for Hidden Good. And Lim Seong Guan say, if it is a good one, we will fund it. So eventually they make one about the toilet cleaner, how to appreciate this uncle who is cleaning the toilet and respect him and celebrate him. So this is the way. The money is paid by somebody else. The film is made by Hidden Good. I pay nothing, and we create the message for everybody.
Yeah, that's so important, right? This idea of leveraging the community and others and their resources to spread that positive message. In fact, Jack was just sharing with me before the show that you have no PR budget, you have no marketing budget. It's incredible.
We have no fundraising department. We have no PR department. We employ 3 people, and we create world event with top people. The World Toilet Summit will be attended by the former UN Deputy Secretary General, and all these big guns, and we have no budget. We just received a congratulatory message from His Majesty the King of the Netherlands for our 20th anniversary, and these are the legitimacy that they give us, but we do not do this with the expectation. We just keep on doing it. If you keep on doing good, then good things will happen.
Absolutely.
So all these awards that are coming from the Queen of England or the World Economic Forum or Time Magazine, we even appear on front page of the Time Magazine, not the photograph, but the name, you know. So it's 2008. It's like surprise, you know, you never know.
And Annabelle had a special date in November for the relaunch. I know, Jack, there's also a special date for WTO in November.
Yeah, 19th of November is the UN World Toilet Day. Our founding day has been adopted by all 193 countries of the UN General Assembly. And this is also the first time Singapore has ever tabled a UN resolution by itself. And it is a very proud moment. So everybody, please celebrate World Toilet Day. Talk about what happened, your experience of toilet, public toilet in Singapore, coffee shop toilet, tourism toilet, all the experience, even how you handle your baby's toileting. It's very important because whatever we don't discuss, we cannot improve. So World Toilet Day every year is big, very big. So if you just Google World Toilet Day, you will find millions and millions of news reports. I'm talking about millions of reports. It's a lot. Over the last 20 years, you just keep on searching and you can spend the whole day reading and watching videos about it.
Wonderful. So 19th of November, remember to like, share, spread the news about the World Toilet Day.
Also join our World Toilet Summit. It's free of charge. So this is the only year it's free of charge because it's COVID and we went virtual. Normally it costs a lot of money to travel to a location. Last year was in Sao Paulo. This year is supposed to be in Hubei, but due to COVID, we are virtual. So everybody please watch out for World Toilet Summit and you can join. You suddenly be shocked. There's so much knowledge about toilet in tourism, in education, in healthcare, continuously. Yeah.
I love that you're bringing up a topic that, I think many of us take for granted, right? That, in Singapore especially, but to have a Singaporean fly that flag is incredible. Thank you very much, Jack. I want to start looking into our last 20 minutes of content. And in any good movie, it's not a happy ending all the time. In the middle, there's always a crisis, right? So I want to talk about the dangers of online and virtual communities, especially now, right, where there's so much polarization and how the virtual community can become an echo chamber of your own views and fake news. So if you sort of hold a certain view, you start seeing content that reinforces that view, and you start going down that rabbit hole. So Annabelle, how do you see this? How do you see this in terms of combating it? How do you see this in terms of affecting the content that you put out there?
I can tell you that, when you're trying to produce content weighted towards doing good, you're always going to have people who may construe it in a different way, right? But I think also managing a community as well has also made me seen that because there's so many different personalities, right? You're always gonna have clashes sometime. What I mean by this is that because the Hidden Good community, we've been running it for 6 years, a very inclusive community. We have people from all walks of life, all social backgrounds. We have people who are on the autism spectrum as well. So, with the new changes that we're trying to implement at the Hidden Good, some people may have not have reacted very well to it, right? And a lot of these guys may have been our old community members, but I think it's also realizing that at the end of the day, people are not numbers. It's very easy for me to say, oh yeah, we have a community of 20K people. We engage X number of people on Instagram, Facebook, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's always keeping in mind that community is people and people have emotions. And that's why it's important to kind of implement risk management or change management plans. So for example, you've had to take some community members out for coffee to explain to them, why we're shifting in the direction we're moving into. The very human element of it, which, if you're running a business, you're like, I have no time to think about this, right? But that's what's all about community, right? I think that's something you really cannot forgo. Engaging emotion and storytelling, I think it goes back to that.
Right. And to sort of smoothen out any tensions or any friction.
Yeah, for sure. And explaining. I mean, I'm sure people on this like room have also follow ST comments on Facebook, like Straits Times comments on Facebook, right? Yeah. And a lot of the comments are very funny also, but it shows that we all have different opinions, but what brings us together, what is our common thread? And at least for how we build community at the Hidden Good is doing good. How Straits Times comment does it is through maybe controversy. So yeah, it just depends on what the common thread is.
On that note, it does seem like the negative stuff sells, right? The controversy, the sort of edginess, the sex, it does seem like that sells. And doing good, I don't know, it probably, I mean, just sort of telling stories about doing good.
For sure. And I think I would challenge that. So something that we're thinking of really, we're orchestrating over the next couple of months is dating for good. So tying together, building community through things like, are you tired of dating guys or girls who, are playboys or playgirls? Then come for dating for good.
I like it.
So trying to make it edgy, but at the same time, they would be having these dates that at social enterprise cafes, they would be volunteering together, putting a spin on something that people may think is a bit taboo.
I like it. I'm rooting for you, Annabelle, and the Hidden Good. I really do hope more good stories are told and viewed, not just told, right? A lot of stories are told, but not many people.
And there's action as well. It's one thing to consume a piece of content, it's another thing to actually get something done.
Absolutely. I like that. Rickmoore, what are the dangers of building communities and sort of spreading the same messages all the time?
Yeah, I think I very much agree with Annabelle. And it's also about, you would in a community, you would have different views, but you're all inside the same kind of cause. What I think is that we all have a responsibility. I think we all have a responsibility in terms of trying to sort out, is this something that is, something that's going to bring me down a rabbit hole? Or do you have friends or family members that are on their way down that rabbit hole, and learn what are the questions and what are the sort of arguments or conversations you can have with these people, because it's going to be really hard to pull them out. Because I think, but I do think we all have that responsibility, and that's for the part with the rabbit holes where you get into a social media channel where you just get fed the same thing and the same information, and they go deeper and deeper and deeper, and then suddenly everybody agrees. You have the feeling that everybody in the whole world agrees with you, and that it might feel good. But I think it's very important that we all take that responsibility to also try to, filter out the ones that are maybe not for good, because I think social media can, as it puts us around the table or around a common cause for good, it can also put us around a common cause for bad. And I think the good should win, and I'm voting for the good. But I really think that we all have that responsibility. And then, so when we are engaging with our communities, I think it's important also to be very aware of that, and to see the patterns where we have communities where people are sort of going in different rabbit holes and maybe using wrongly the purpose that you have put out into another purpose, which we've been seeing with QAnon and stuff like that in the States.
I like the
So,
message,
yeah.
right? That there is a personal responsibility to sort of be your own check and balance, right? And not sort of just believe that your perspective is the only perspective. Jack, you've been doing this the longest. I mean, I would like to think the longest among all of us. Why is it so difficult to disagree? Why is it so difficult to sort of bridge a gap, you know, offer a hand across to someone that just disagrees with you?
Not difficult. Most of the time, if they criticize, you can agree with them and they stop criticizing. It's all right. What happened is our subject is shit, right? It's as bad as it is, right? So we realize that there's no such a thing as bad publicity. The worst thing that can happen is no publicity. So we find that the subject itself is so taboo and embarrassing that if you think on the flip side, it's actually news. Because anything that is not discussed and cannot be discussed is actually newsworthy. So the bridge between the taboo is and the media darling is actually humor. So I make a fool of myself. I call myself the WTO, like the World Trade Organization. I create controversy. I believe that the World Trade Organization can only do two things. One is they sue me and I get famous. The other one is they don't sue me and I get famous. So the end result of a guerrilla marketing strategy is the same. And to reach 3 billion audience per year is similar to having one Gangnam Style per year. You forgot about this song already. They reach 3 billion audience a year, only for 1 year. For us, it's every year. And this is how you stay authentic. You don't care about whatever people laugh at you, because when they laugh at you, they're listening to you. This is good. And whatever comment they make is going to create more awareness. So this is a very wonderful way of looking at things, because you are no more self-conscious. You are more interested that the mission happen.
So Jack, I'm curious. You know, I've seen you in videos where you're putting on a toilet bowl suit and holding a toilet plunger. How close to reality is that in terms of your personality? Are you also like a joker in real life? Are you also a really fun guy? And how are you like?
I'm a joker, but those things that I do are extreme.
Right.
And it is for the purpose of getting the message across. So they will say like, why is this guy so crazy?
Exactly.
And then somebody else will say, no, he's not crazy. He's serious. Then how can he be serious? Then they start the conversation. I don't have to do that, you see. So when I go to India, you must in Rome do what the Romans do. When I go to India, I immediately get aligned with the Swamis. I have a photograph of myself sitting together with all the top Swamis and Gurus on one table. It looked like the Last Supper, you know. And then I support all the Swamis and I talk Vedas and I research about Hindu language, Hindu beliefs. Yeah. And then suddenly you get all these Swamis donating a whole building for us to work, World Toilet College in Aurangabad, and we train 5,000 toilet cleaners the last 2 years, professionally paid by Harpic and Dettol, the Racket Bankizer, the detergent people. And so you can leverage a lot of resources because you're legit. And then I go to Bangladesh, and suddenly I'm with all the imams, and I'm talking about the hadith, about the holy scholarly book next to the Quran, about how we must be clean before we pray 5 times a day. Myself, I have no religion. So I'm actually friends with every religion. I went to the Vatican and I talked about shit, and then the Monsignor say, this is the first time this word is uttered in this room. And he's also laughing about it. No problem, you know. No offense. As long as you are sincere and sensitive, I don't think there's a rule. You just have to feel for people. And 20 years, we didn't go wrong.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Jack, for showing how you can really cut across, many lines that seem very hard to cut across if you have that right message and the right heart. I have to start wrapping up already. So I will ask all my panelists to answer this final question about the future, right? Where do you think these virtual communities or engaging your communities would lie? Whether it's right now in the midst of COVID or even subsequently, what would be important to someone listening today that wants to start building a community in the future? What do you think would that look like? Maybe in this case, we start with Jack, we go to Rickmoore, and then we wrap up with Annabelle. Jack?
I think you must be prepared for the 5G. The moment 5G is ubiquitous, people working alone will become silos and uncompetitive. A lot of people are still in the old ways trying to be a hero. Heroes will die. What happened is cluster will take over single heroes. And you have to communicate across sector beyond your expert area and beyond your agenda. And then you collaborate across sector. And in the future, ecosystem is the way to go. And in fact, we are working with the National University right now to create the birth of a center for social system innovation, because system will take over everything. Algorithms, robots, automation, everybody will be communicating together, and collective selfishness will be selflessness.
Interesting. That is, I mean, we're going to have to leverage these tools of the future to continue spreading our message of good.
Don't work alone. You will never succeed.
I hear you. Very good. Rickmoore.
Yeah, I agree very much with Jack. I think the future is ecosystems. And I think what we are seeing today is just going to continue. I don't think it's going to stop. We're going to have virtual communities, and we're going to have more communities, and they're going to be more global and reaching further than we have ever seen. I think it's really hard to also to say what the future is going to look like, because we know it's going to be very, very different just in a couple of years from now. So in terms of the audience, I would also say that it's never too late to start. You can always start creating your community. If you have a cause, start today, start talking to people, start doing, following your cause. You will find people that share your cause. So that's my message is don't wait. Just start.
Absolutely. Especially now where there's so many ways to start, so many platforms.
Exactly.
Thank you, Rickmoore. Annabelle, final word over to you.
I mean, I just want to reiterate that the word virtual in front of communities doesn't have to be there, because communities always exist, right? And I think the pandemic has shown us that human beings need connection now. We cannot function in silos by ourselves at home. I think we'll just go mad. We need human touch, human emotion, and it, right? It's more than just one person. More than one person gathering is really a community. So I think just going back to how we can get this done, it's really, first thing is the partnerships, right? I think it's an African saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I think partnerships is really important. Finding your posse, people who can support you in your vision and mission. And the second thing is purpose. So what Rickmoore was saying about what's your cause, right? What are you interested in? Start from there and then start building up. I think because the purpose will always allow us to understand why we're doing something. When building community gets tough, I mean, not gonna lie, as a social enterprise, to stay afloat in these times is tough.
Yep.
But that's why it's always going back to purpose. Like, why are we doing this? And we do this because we want to make doing good accessible for youth in Singapore. It's very simple for me when I say it like that. And then last thing is dissemination. So go to where your audiences are. I mean, for Jack, he went to the Vatican, I don't know if the hidden good will ever go to such high places one day, but yeah, go to where your audience is. How are you disseminating your content? Making poop culture, pop culture, that kind of thing. I mean, it's it's all about dissemination and how you're kind of pushing your stuff out. Yeah, so
Perfect. Thank you very much, Annabelle. And with that, my friends, just a few notes of thanks. First, to the awesome panel. Thank you. It's been a privilege having a chat with you. I thought a lot of actionable tips right there. Very, very inspired and very enlightened. So thank you to the panelists. I'd like to thank the participants for your questions, your attention here this afternoon. And most importantly, I'd like to thank Raise, because they have been the ones to build this community of social entrepreneurs and supporters of social enterprises. So I'd like to ask everyone to continue supporting social enterprises, working with social enterprises, and building a strong ecosystem of social enterprises and entrepreneurs. So thank you very much for your support. On behalf of the panelists, I'd like to hand the time over back to Simin.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, panelists and the moderator, for a vibrant session today. I think it was a great pick me up on this Wednesday. And to the audience, we hope you had an enjoyable time as well. And like the panelists mentioned, just get started, believe in what you are doing, and know your purpose. So if you wish to connect with any of the panelists, do feel free to reach out to them via their LinkedIn, which is being sent in the chat right now. And also check out our festival website at festivalforgood.sg for more information and updates, and see how you can work with social enterprises and learn more about them. Last but not least, do join us for our next conversation happening this Saturday at 3 p.m. on wellness in social communities. Resilient people make resilient economies. Thank you and have a great day ahead.